From a psychological perspective, motivation is a process that causes the arousal, direction and persistence of behaviour, typically towards a voluntary goal. More generally though, motivation is the degree to which an individual wants and tries to complete a particular task. For example, it explains the difference between a coach who's leading a training session that's engaging and ensures that every one of their participants are developing their own performance, to one that's just there and doing it to get paid. So it's just that both have different motivations.
It generally comes down to the question of why we would do one thing potentially over and above other things. So we're always trying to get to answering the question of why, and you need to get to the understanding of people's why, and that might be people you're working with or your own why, and you need to uncover that and bring it to the surface so that you can actually compare, understand each individual's why, and that usually drives their behaviour and the way they engage in that behaviour. The way motivation is ultimately brought out and enacted is in the interaction with the environment. So even when we understand people's needs and we've finally uncovered all of those, it's completely possible to set up a session or an event which doesn't facilitate those needs being met. And so what we're actually looking for is the matchup of the moment and the session or the event with that person's needs. And it can be informative to work out, well, the reason this isn't working is because the rules of the situation don't allow us to meet that person's needs, for example. And then you might have to think how we help that person or find a different way of getting them involved.
There are a number of theories that try to explain what motivates a person. One of the more popular theories is what we know as the self-determination theory. In simple terms, it's a theory of motivation that's concerned with supporting our intrinsic needs. And those are having autonomy over what we do, feeling competent, and also building connections with others. Now, the major difference with the self-determination theory and others is that it focuses on the type of motivation that somebody has rather than how much. It can be either autonomous, so typically behaviours that are considered more intrinsic, like enjoyment or personal improvement, or it can be controlled. And those are more often behaviours that are performed because of external influences, like rewards or a fear of punishment.
So when we're answering that why question, it's extraordinarily diverse, but at the same time, you can classify these whys into three broad categories. So generally, people like to feel competent, like we can achieve the outcomes we want to achieve and we can influence our environment. So if we're feeling that we can be successful and we can achieve things, that's one of the key things that makes people feel good. And likewise, we like to feel connected to other people, whether we feel we have relationships, we're valued, we're part of a group that values us and we're bonded with that group. That connection to other people is really important. And then we like to feel like we're in control. So we actually are not just kind of passively pawns in a game, but we're actually able to make decisions, enact those decisions, and it's our will that's being enacted, at least in some areas of life.
Now, there's lots of different ways a coach can try and create an environment that encourages their participants to lean more towards autonomous motivation. For example, to try and have participants feeling competent about their performance or development, it can be as easy as using clear and understandable communication about expectations that you or they might have and checking in with them to see how they're going compared to these expectations. It's all about making sure that the participants are focused on comparing within themselves as opposed to other teams, other participants, etc. Now, with autonomy, you can provide participants with more options about the activities, the rules, the direction of a session. Basically get them involved in the decision-making and the development process of a session. Giving participants more information about things like the activities or why they're doing something can also make them feel aware of what's going on and why. And with relatedness, because it's all about building a connection with your participants, simple things like learning more about them, being more personable and relatable to who they are, not always being serious and focusing on what's happening in the session really helps with this.
I think once you get into game situations, all of these things are kind of furiously, dynamically interacting, and so you want to get to the point where you've got teams of individuals or the individuals themselves able to make live decisions and take control and therefore feel autonomy and enact those decisions and therefore feel competence. And sometimes delivering on those things in the long-term perspective is more important than the scoreboard.